All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about Etsy. You know, the giant for all things unique and handcrafted. They just made this huge move, a strategic pivot, really, that's got the entire creator community buzzing. They're basically making a massive billion-dollar bet on what handmade actually means. And to really get why this is such a big deal, you gotta start with this one number, 24.5%. Yeah, 24.5%. That's Etsy's take rate. It's the slice of every single sale that Etsy pockets for itself. And believe me, that is one of the highest rates you'll find anywhere in e-commerce. So right away, you have to ask, how on earth does a platform justify taking almost a quarter of every sale? I mean, really? Well, the answer to that is the whole point of our story today. It all comes down to a massive, high-stakes gamble they took to protect the one thing they can't afford to lose, their authenticity. So let's rewind a little bit. To get the full picture, you need to see where Etsy was at in 2025. On the surface, they were an absolute giant, a dominant force. But they were also surprisingly vulnerable. And I mean, the scale here is just mind-boggling. We're talking $3.6 billion in stuff sold in just one quarter. And look at this, over 86 million active buyers. So yeah, Etsy is not some little niche marketplace anymore. It's a full-blown global economic engine for millions of creators. And this phrase right here, this is the fuel for that engine. Keep commerce human. You know, that's not just some fluffy marketing tagline. It's their core promise. It's the reason why buyers like you and me are willing to pay a little more on Etsy. And that very idea, it was under serious attack. And that attack created what you can only call a full-blown authenticity crisis. It was threatening the very foundation of their entire business. And here's where you can really see the problem laid out. On one side, you've got Etsy's whole model, right? Built on unique human-made stuff. But on the other side, you have the explosive rise of these mass marketplaces. Think Temu, think TikTok Shop, which are all about speed, volume, and low prices. And the scary part for Etsy? Those lines were starting to get really, really blurry. You know, this wasn't some abstract threat either. It was real stuff flooding the platform. Things like these super sophisticated luxury knockoffs that looked a little too perfect. Or AI-generated art being passed off as original work. And oh man, the flood of unauthorized digital downloads. Every single one of those listings was just chipping away at buyer trust. Now, for years, Etsy and platforms like it had a sort of legal shield. It's called the DMCA Safe Harbor. And basically, it meant they weren't on the hook for fakes as long as they took stuff down when someone reported it. But that whole reactive, wait for a complaint strategy just wasn't cutting it anymore. It was like trying to weed a garden that was being overtaken. The weeds were just growing way faster than they could pull them. So what did Etsy do? They decided to stop playing defense. In June 2025, they went on the offense, and they did it by rolling out their brand new creativity standards. And they came at this problem with a really clear three-part plan. First, an original design mandate. This meant sellers now had to prove they were the actual creator of a design, not just grabbing some commercial template. Second, they poured a ton of money into AI-driven enforcement to proactively hunt down and remove stuff that violated their policies. And third, they made it way easier for brands to report intellectual property theft. Okay, so this is the really crucial takeaway here. This was a fundamental shift in how they saw themselves. Etsy went from being just a simple venue, like an open-air market, to being a fully governed ecosystem. This whole idea of platform governance just means they're now the ones actively setting the rules of the road for their community, instead of just cleaning up accidents after they happen. But, you know, a change this big is never easy, and it absolutely comes with some serious consequences. Etsy knew this was a calculated and, honestly, a very risky trade-off. And here's the immediate pain of that decision. In 2025, the platform actually saw a 1.5% drop in the number of active sellers. Now, for a company that's built on its seller community, any kind of drop is a major red flag. It's clear that some creators just weren't on board with the new, stricter rules and decided to leave. But here's the gain that came with that pain. Those new AI systems they built, they improved how accurately they could enforce the rules by a whopping 70%. So they were getting much, much better at finding and booting the exact listings that were poisoning the well. It is a classic quality over quantity strategy. And this right here brings us to the core dilemma, the real heart of the trade-off. Look, on one hand, they risk a short-term hit to their sales, and yeah, they tick off some sellers. But on the other hand, this bold move is exactly what lets them justify that 24.5% take rate. They're basically arguing, hey, that fee you pay, it's for us to guarantee a premium, curated, and truly authentic experience that you just can't get on those other mass market sites. Which brings us right up to today, and it leaves the final verdict on whether this was the right call, well, very much up in the air. And don't make any mistake about it. Etsy is all in on this. They recently announced plans to sell off Depop, their other marketplace, for $1.2 billion. This just goes to show you they are shedding any distractions and doubling down on their core mission, to be the one true home for human creativity. So now it's over to you. What do you think? Is this strategy, actively policing their platform and narrowing the definition of handmade, a brilliant move for long-term survival? Or is it going to backfire, pushing talented creators away to other, more freewheeling platforms? This is one of those business case studies that is literally being written as we speak.